Mobius Assessment Lesson 8A Homework Question Number 9. Find the vertex, y-intercept, and direction of the following quadratic function. So the first thing we want to do is identify all of the variables for the standard form of a quadratic. So the number in front of the x squared is a, the number in front of just the x is b, and the number without anything is c. So I have A, B, and C. Now these can be reorganized in whatever fashion whatsoever. Just remember that if I have x squared, the number is out in front is A. The x without anything, or raised to the first power, is the B, and the number without anything, or without a variable, that's C. And that's important because we need to use those to find the vertex. And we have this formula here. The vertex of a quadratic is negative b over 2a. And so coming over here, b is the 12. So I'm just going to copy this, copy, paste, and replace b with 12. And a, we will replace first with parentheses so that I remember that I'm multiplying. And then out in front, this whole number in front of the x squared, it's a positive and a 3. So I'm going to type in 3 and then work this out. So I have equals negative 12 over 3 times 2 times 3. We'll copy this so that I can show my steps. 2 times 3 is positive 6. Negative 12 divided by positive 6 is negative 2, and this is the x-coordinate of the vertex. But we need the y-coordinate because the vertex is an xy coordinate. So we need to take this and substitute or evaluate or plug in, however you want to use the terminology, into this equation right here for every single x. And we can do this by hand, which works just fine, or we could use Excel, which also works. Since I don't have Excel up right here, and so that you can get confident knowing that you can do this by hand, I'm going to go ahead and do it by hand first. So we're going to take our equation. In fact, I'm just going to copy this, Control C copy, Control V paste, and we'll make it just as big as everything else, like this. And remind us that that's in the exponent because I have this squared. Now every time I have an x, I need to substitute this negative 2. And remember, in the previous examples, every time I have an x, I'm going to replace it, or a variable, I'm going to replace it with parentheses so that I don't get mixed up, especially with the negatives. So that this here, I don't try and do like a 3 subtract 2 or something like that. All right, now using the order of operations, I need to multiply or make sure that I do this exponent first. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, then multiply and divide from left to right, and add and subtract from left to right. So this exponent must be done first. Negative 2, a negative times a negative is positive. So this becomes positive 4. We're going to do Control C to copy, Control V to paste. This negative 2 squared becomes 4. And I'm going to put a multiply here so that I don't think that that's 34, that I know it's 3 times 4. And negative 2 squared gave me 4, so that's perfect. I could also put that back in the parentheses, and that would be fine too, so that you know that you're multiplying these together. Now the next step in the order of operations is multiplying and dividing from left to right. So I'm going to multiply and divide 3 and 4 together. 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 times negative 2 is negative 24, and then I need to add and subtract from left to right. Bring this, copy and paste. Positive 12 plus a negative 24 gives me negative 12, and then add 2 gives me a negative 10. So now I have an ordered pair, negative 2 comma negative 10, for the vertex, and I can put those numbers in here. If you'd like to use Excel, we can do that as well. We can we could use it for both of them actually. We could do, we'll do negative b over 2a as a reminder for us. We're not doing any of those. We're just typing in numbers. 2a, nope, it still wants to. So we're going to say that this is text. I'm going to do a little quote right there. And that'll say that I'm working with text and not that I'm trying to do a calculation. All right, so, but this next one, I'm going to do a calculation and I'm going to type in my b, which is 12, and make sure I make it negative, negative 12, divided by 2 times, and a is this 3 over here. And I want both of those to be on the denominator. So I'm going to put parentheses, making sure both the 2 and the 3 stay in the denominator while it does the order of operations and calculates that for us, which gives us negative 2, and that's what we got over here too. And then the next part will be taking all of this. I'm actually going to copy and paste this in again, like we did previously on other examples, and make sure I do Shift 6 to make that a caret, and there's not an operation between the 12 and the x, and while we know that's multiply, Excel needs it too. And same here, we'll do multiply. And I can go ahead and replace this with this one here. So I'm going to do equals, and since I'm not clicking and dragging anywhere, I'm just going to cell reference the negative 2 for both of these, and make sure I have my multiplying in there. That looks good, and it got the negative 10 as well. So we can put those numbers in here. The x value is negative 2, and the y value of the vertex is negative 10. Now the next part, so that first part was probably the hardest out of all of it, the more labor-intensive part. The y-intercept is actually one of my very favorites. No, I'd have to say the up and down is, but the y-intercept is very easy to find. The y-intercept is where x equals 0. So we're going to take this right here and plug in 0 for the x. So it's like this one here, but changing this to a 0. And because I'm cell referencing up here, I can change this to a 0 if you would like to see that. And it'll calculate it for us, which gives us a 2. Now the fast way as well, instead of trying to type that all into an Excel, is whatever times 0 is 0, right? So when I replace this, maybe for visual people, we need to put this in here just so you can see it. Copy, paste. We're finding this for 0. 0, 0, everything is 0, right? I know that should have been squared. We should do that. Okay, 0 squared is 0 times 3 is still 0, 12 times 0 is 0, everything is 0 except the thing that does not have an x, because 0 times anything is still 0. So it doesn't matter. The only thing we have to do, we don't even have to calculate. We just look at the last number that has no variable. Now some of you may say, but what if it doesn't have this term without the x? So let's take that out. What if it was nothing? Well, then it's still 0 because everything just becomes 0 except that last thing. And if there isn't that last thing, then it's 0 because there's nothing there. So we're just going to look at this last term, and it's a positive 2. Super, very, very fast. And now for the last part, and yes, this one is actually my favorite because this is just fun. We look at this first number in front of the x squared, the a. And so let's put that here. We're looking for a. We look at the number before the x squared, and we just see if it's a happy or sad number. Is it positive or negative? And this one's positive, so it's a happy parabola. And it looks up. That's all we have to do. So we can verify. How did I do? Oh, and just if that was a negative number, it would be negative, sad, pessimistic. You get the idea. And we have a frowny face, which opens down. Okay, so how did I do? And there we go. And we can move to the next one.